I'm Vanessa Mahoney. I'm founder of Wanderstar Marketing. My focus is marketing, as you might have guessed. And at Wanderstar, we help space companies build strong foundations, bring clarity to complex ideas, and maintain consistent visibility, even with lean teams and long sales cycles. But today we're going to take a little bit of a step back from marketing and talk about what makes growth sustainable. And that's operations, which is often the unsung hero. If you've ever felt like your team is running hard but not moving forward as fast as you'd like, you're not alone. This session's for you. Our speaker today is someone who doesn't just build companies, she builds ecosystems. Dr. Melissa Patton has helped startups scale, guided executive teams through strategic transitions, and built the kind of operational systems that turn chaos into clarity. In a sector where complexity is constant and resources are often very tight, she brings the structure and the insight that can actually change how you lead. In today's conversation, you'll learn the friction points that show how your company is slowing down. She's going to help you create intentional rhythms for hiring and for scaling, and how to leverage discomfort as a way to grow, not a signal to pull back. Best of all, you'll walk away with practical tools that you can put into action immediately. And Melissa, best of all, has been kind enough to share her playbook for all of you to download at the end of this conversation. And before we jump in, just a quick housekeeping note. Feel free to drop your questions in the chat. We'll leave some time at the end for Q&A, but I will try to weave in questions whenever possible through the conversation. And with that, Melissa, I'm so happy you're here.
It is awesome that this is finally happening. Vanessa, we have been planning, I was part of the planning committee. We have been planning for this for months. And I got to tell you, people always say they save the best for last. I just want to give Vanessa Mahoney a big shout out. She has had some amazing presenters. If you haven't heard her previous podcast, you need to listen. I have big shoes to fill. The bar is super high. She's done a fabulous job. So she didn't know I was going to do this, guys. It would have never made it past her in the in the rehearsals. But I just want to give her a big round of applause for making all of this happening and creating a really good brand that's going to support so many people. Yeah, let's woohoo her in the chat.
Thank you. Yeah, I wasn't expecting that. Thank you.
Sorry, Vanessa, I had to. My story, I was just going to say, my story is, it doesn't start with, running down the yellow brick road and holding someone's hand as you're picking flowers. Most startup stories never start like that. Mine started on, a day in mid-December, about 17 years ago. Yes, I am that old. Oh, goodness. And my son, who's 3 years old, is playing with his cars and trucks in my home office. My husband, Stanley, is downstairs cooking cookies. It's literally a normal day 2 weeks before Christmas. And then the phone call comes in. And I'm like, heck yeah, this is the SVP. This is the promotion call I've been waiting on. And I was super excited. So I kind of put my big girl pants on, fixed my hair a little bit. And I was like, hey, how are you? And for some of you, this is a trauma conversation, okay? This is something that you've just experienced, or it's part of your survival story. And the words on the other end of the call, I would have never in a million years expected to hear. And it was, we apologize, but your position has been eliminated and you are now going to be laid off. And everything else was just like, I didn't even know what she was saying. I just heard the words layoff and I felt like a failure. And after about 5 gallons of Edie's ice cream, Vanessa, and a pity party like none other, going through the 5 stages of grief, depression, anger, bargaining, denial. My husband walks into the office one day and says, it's time to get to work. And what that meant was the pivotal moment that Patton Consulting Group was birthed. birthed as a really bad marketing firm, like logos and websites when people like didn't have AI to do those things. And from there, we evolved into Rent a CEO and property management and association management, and now a fractional COO firm.
I think a lot of founders can relate to that journey. I think many of them, myself included, have started in the corporate world first, and we transition into a bit more of an entrepreneurial role. I think there's a lot to learn there from your journey, and even the pivoting and evolving the baby, your product, right? You see a ton of that in the space industry, particularly. You start with one idea that slowly evolves into something else as you're going through the different testing and trials and demos, so that you're in good company in this crew. So many founders, speaking about those early days, they feel like they're scrambling a little bit, right? And from your perspective, because you've lived it yourself, what does that look like at a startup?
Well, I mean, I think those friction points are key, and you could almost expect them because that's how you know that things are getting mixed up and you're about to grow. It's like a growing spurt, right? It's like it's either going to go really well or really badly. And, I kind of identified three major areas. They're thematic, they seem to happen everywhere. And thinking in one particular situation of a space organization that I was working with, asked to come in and kind of assess the issue. The issue is no one is staying at our company. Imagine that. The back door was wide open. So they were hiring, getting them in there really well. And then as soon as they were in there, they were gone. And what we first identified with this particular company was that there were some decision-making bottlenecks. And I know none of you know what I'm talking about there. And if I come down Front Street and you're feeling a little guilty, it happens to everyone. But it's when the C-suite, executive leadership, is trying to make decisions, but hasn't really wrapped their head completely around what it looks like to push this down to mid-level management and then on to entry-level employees. And somewhere along that line, there's some bottlenecks, okay? Mm-hmm. And the bottlenecks, it's almost like a bad game of talking into the cup and it not getting to the other side correctly. And with these bottlenecks, it really hurts people's understanding of, can I trust what's coming down? Okay. It becomes a trust issue. I also think misaligned goals has a big role in this as well. And what I mean by misaligned goals is that the goals that are coming down from executive leadership are not translating, and people are not grabbing it and leaning in and excited about what's going on. So the alignment is not there, and that alignment needs to be there in order to avoid toxic cultures, right? And toxicity, I mean, we use that word a lot these days because there's a lot of change and transformations happening in companies. But toxicity happens because the trust is not there. The alignment is not there. There's a bottleneck. And then as that trickles down, it becomes something that's really, really difficult to lean into. So then you get one person talking to another person negatively about the situation. And then that person talks to 5 more people during lunch about the situation. And then you've got a group over at the coffee area. And that's where the toxicity happens. It's something that can be rectified, but you have to have that bottleneck cleared. Hopefully that helps.
I mean, that speaks to my soul. Anybody that's been in corporate America long enough, right? But as you're starting a young company, these are the things to avoid, right? Well, how do you avoid that, or how do you fix it? If you're early on in those days of you have a space startup, how do you start to see those red flags?
Yeah. I have a very clear visual, and those of you that open the Ops Playbook are going to see a lot of sports metaphors. I'm apologizing in advance. I absolutely know my space audience. I would say about 25% of you maybe even care that we're in football season right now. But it is very, very, very important to understand that there are some analogies and metaphors that link itself to sports. And as you're thinking about bottlenecks, and then you're thinking about what it takes to kind of loosen those bottlenecks, I want you to just imagine that you're on the 50-yard line and coach has a parachute attached to you. And he says, when I say go, I want you to run as fast as you possibly can. And in your mind, you're thinking, I got this. This is going to be easy. And as you begin to pump your arms and run, the parachute fills with air. And now you've hit a friction point. You've hit thrust. You've hit, I can't move any further because it's preventing me from going forward. That's the problem with these friction points. But the way that we fix them, the way we move forward, is through a strong operating rhythm. And I do operating rhythms a little bit differently. I always lead with assessment. And it can be a qualitative or it can be a quantitative assessment. I go in, and most operators do, especially if they're fractional. I go in and I want to talk to every single person because I want to hear themes. I want to synthesize the information. I want to understand what everyone is saying about X. And I don't have any judgment. I'm not biased. I'm from outside. So it's a safe place. And I take all of that data and I help understand how to work that problem backwards. And you're going to hear a lot of operators. Most of you on the call are operations people. You're going to hear, you should be saying, work the problem backwards, right? So if the problem is that the back door is open because employees don't feel safe, employees think it's a toxic culture, employees don't trust senior leadership, then what's the problem? The problem is training and developing, it's role clarity, and it's helping people understand that you can come to me and that I'm going to come to you and we're going to lean in and make sure that everything is up and above reproach because we all have to do this together. Hence the whole concept of cross-functional collaboration. Yeah. Please only hire what you need. Vanessa, this is so important. I have one of those philosophies where I am very quick to fire, but slow to hire. And I have a very lean team. And the reason why I say that is because you need to understand what you actually need on your team before you hire them. That's where the trusting transparency is going to be eliminated out the gate. If people don't know why they're there, if they don't understand their job, if they don't understand how they fit, that is going to cause frustration. And that's a very easy thing to get ahead of.
People in the chat are agreeing with you wholeheartedly.
Oh, good. Oh my goodness. And they disagree because then I'm like, I got to change it up.
Well, so I got a sneak peek to the playbook, and there's one framework that you referenced there, which is the RACI framework. And I thought this might be a good place to bring it up. Help us understand what is the RACI framework and how it could help alleviate these friction points that you're talking about, whether it's the bottlenecks, whether it's misaligned goals.
Yeah. So we didn't practice this, Vanessa, but hopefully you're okay with it. Can I just see a show of hands in the chat? How many of you are project management operators? How many of you are operators and you have a project management background? And I'm going to watch those hands go up. And those of you who hear the recording, you have to do that exercise too. Absolutely. Okay, good. Eric knows where I'm going with this. Okay. And so does Joe.
Right.
If you are not a project manager and you are an operator, or you aren't a fake project manager like me, because I don't have a PMP like you and like Eric and Joe, but you absolutely need to follow the RACI model. It is a model that helps you understand how to work within a system. Responsible, accountable, consulted, and informed. Everyone needs to know their role. Everyone. And if they aren't leaning into their role, their manager, their supervisor, someone needs to help them understand how you fit in this equation. When you start using fancy words like KPIs and goals, RACI plays a huge role in that because everybody gets on board with what they're supposed to bring to the table. It's about accountability, Vanessa.
Yeah. Can you share an example with us, if you can? No names. Of a space or a tech startup and how they've managed to clear some of these friction points.
Oh my goodness. This one is my absolute favorite. So I was at a huge space conference, one that will not be named. And, I'm just like, so you guys know happy hours, right? After a space conference, you're 12 hours walking around in stiletto heels, if you're Melissa, and you're talking to people and you're networking and you're sweating profusively because you're wearing a crazy suit and you're exhausted. So you get to the happy hour, you get a glass of wine. And what the last thing that I want to do is talk about work or what I do, right? So this particular individual, super young, super ambitious, he's the CEO and the COO. He's got a CTO, early stage startup. I kid you not, they're going to be a multi-million-dollar company. I wish I could tell you the name so that you can just like get stock now, because he's just going to be that good. But he's just nonchalantly, we're having a glass of wine and we're talking together, and he's just telling me all of the friction points, all of the bottlenecks that he's experiencing even before this thing goes live. And I'm just thinking to myself, yeah, I'm going to have to drop it. I'm going to have to tell him what I do. And I was like, have you ever thought about bringing an operator in to kind of help prevent some of the people management issues that you're going to have? Or I already know that you want to scale and exit pretty quickly within 5 to 7 years. Have you ever thought about bringing someone in to help you get set up, through from an M&A opportunity or for a private equity opportunity and get them to the next level? And he was like, why would I do that? And I was like, because you're the CEO. You need to CEO it out. You need to focus on that. CEOs cast vision. They kiss babies. They get on really nice jets. They have conversations with people. They bring in the money. COOs make all your vision stuff happen. Okay. Arguably the most important part of a company, but we're all operators, so I can say that. But yeah, so that's the job. And so in this particular situation, and now he's one of my coaching clients, and he's amazing, and we have a blast on the phone together. But he's now thinking about what it might look like to bring a fractional or to bring a full-time operator on. And you don't have to go in full-time. Like, operators are expensive. I get that. But you can bring a fractional person in, a part-time, a consultant, and they can help with those rhythms, and they can help you get off on a good footing.
Those are really expensive roles to hire for, though. And I feel like those are really expensive, particularly early on. And I completely see your point of trying to delegate to someone who has those operation chops. But how do you make that happen on a limited budget?
Oh gosh. I mean, Vanessa, this is my whole being. This is why I exist on the planet. So, I use the word fractional, and the firm has taken on many iterations. We've been probably every type of management firm, but I love the word fractional because it means exactly what it says. We are actually going to do work for you at a fraction of the cost in a fraction of the time. So when you have someone sitting in your company who's a COO, you're paying them benefit, you're taking care of their benefits, you're giving them PTO, you're putting them in a bonus structure, they're on salary. And with a fractional, you can work out an arrangement that is beneficial to the fractional, but also beneficial to you. And when you are done with that particular project, you can let them go, or you can renew the contract and have them work on a different project. And so that makes it a lot more affordable, Vanessa. And you all don't have to listen to me. You don't have to believe in me. You don't have to choose me. But there is a network of fractionals out there. Some of them are on this call because they told me they would be here, that would love to be a part of that opportunity and can do a really good job for you. And the good fractionals out there are C-suiters. There are people that were operators in the C-suite, and now they've just kind of come off by themselves in order to get more aligned with the projects that they're working on.
So going into a bit more detail on that fractional COO role, we have a question from the chat. How does a fractional COO work when most integrators need to be deeply embedded within marketing, sales, ops, manufacturing, product, finance, etc.? Hi, Jaren.
Hi, Jaren. Good question. I look at it as cross-functional collaboration, Jaren, and I don't know if this is the answer that you wanted to hear, but I think we kind of all have to work together. And I don't know if y'all can tell, but my personality is who you see today. When I walk into a fractional situation, I find a way to read the room and to place myself in that team, in order to make sure that there's alignment and that I'm leaning in. And that's very easy for me because I'm used to being around a lot of different types of people with lots of different types of personalities. And the better operators out there are able to lean in and to become a part of that team. I'm also looking at work when most integrators need to be deeply embedded within marketing, sales, operations, etc. I also believe that from an operational standpoint, and I might just be speaking for myself, but my role is overarching. My role is to identify who the lead is in those departments and figure out how I can work with them. It's not my job to just be this person that's there, but it is to lean into the situation and to understand, okay, this is how we work together and this is how we get from point A to point B within that framework.
And I would guess that's going to differ depending on the engagement as well, right? How embedded do you need to be? Which goes to a question that I have on my end, which is how do you vet for that fractional partner?
Yeah. So from the perspective of the person that's looking for a fractional partner, and this is, I'm just putting a disclaimer out there. This is my opinion. Okay. This is not in a book somewhere, unless it's my book. But I think you need to find somebody where your personality matches. I think you need to find someone that you can do life with. I think you need to find someone that's going to be okay with saying, you know what, that's a great idea, but I don't think it's the best way to get there. Can we think about it from this perspective and maybe work the problem and find a solution in the middle? And that to me, from someone that owns their own business, a 17-year-old firm, to me is so important for me only to work with people that I'm aligned with. Because it can go ugly and it can go bad very quickly. So I think if you're looking for someone, you need to look for people in your network, and you need to make sure that the personalities are aligned and that there's some sort of common ground that's going to keep you and that person accountable and on the same page.
On the marketing side, on the fractional marketing, from that point of view, I typically advise hire someone with experience in B2B technical sectors, whether or not it's space. Hire someone who is a strategic thinker with a repeatable framework that could act as an advisor. You want them to have that framework where they can kind of come in and deploy. But also you want someone that could, dependent on the situation, that could execute. Maybe to your point, sometimes you need more of a strategic advisor, and maybe sometimes you need someone that's a bit more tactical in those early days that can roll up their sleeves and do it. So those are the things you'd want to vet, I think, at least on the marketing side. It sounds like it would be the same on the COO side. And I think the last bit there would be understanding the role that marketing plays in building trust, right? In building trust with your potential customers, with investors. And it's not just lead gen, but I would think that all of these more or less align with you, except maybe the building trust for COO, it sounds like, from identifying the friction points that we talked about, is internal as well, is building trust internally within your own org.
Yeah. And if I can add something to that, Vanessa, I am, and this might hurt my credibility. I don't have a STEM degree. I don't have a space ops degree. I have 3 liberal arts degrees. My doctoral degree is in organizational change and systems. So how do you grow, develop, scale a large organization and help it be sustainable? And sometimes it takes different types of thought or thinkers to enter the room in order to solve a problem. And so the alignment, as you mentioned, it may not be because you have a background in X. It may just mean that you're a communicator and you can lean into the team. And I think that is going to show when you have that interview and you have that conversation with the person. If you do not like extroverted, extra people, you're not going to choose Melissa. You're going to choose someone that's a little bit different. But you have to go with someone, obviously, that knows their stuff, that has an experience, that has opportunities to be in the room with other C-suite executives, but at the same time, someone that you can lean in with.
So we're talking a little bit about identifying those friction points, how to fix that, right? What are some frameworks, hiring the right people for that? What are some other advice that you could give them? So you can give an operator, a founder in those early days to help them not get pulled back into that bit of a chaotic environment. How do they do that? What are some other tools that you would advise?
Yeah. I did a reel, and it was entitled something like chaos is not growth or something. And I honestly believe that. And I think the misconception is I'm growing because things around me are crazy. And I don't even know where that comes from. That's not a thing. But growth is a thing. The pruning process is a thing. Pricking things off so that new life can grow is absolutely a thing. And I think out the gate, being flexible with your growth challenges and with transformation is number one. It's key. And I know that a lot of you are now tuning me off because you're a high D on disc. Okay. you're a bulldozer. You're type A. Can I get some love here? Where are my type A people? I have nobody shouting anything out at me right now. My perfectionists, my bulldozers, okay? If you're in the room, just holler at me. But all of those things are connected to who we are as operations leads. We don't want to be flexible, Vanessa. Mm-hmm. We want things to go the way we want it to go because we put all the work in. It's in our Monday boards. It's in our Asana boards. We know where we're going because we've already mapped it out. But we have to be flexible. We also have to take risks. Growth is about taking risks. It's about understanding that if I am going to move through that next threshold, I need to be able to say, okay, I'm leaning into this and I'm going to be okay with it. Now, these risks are not all the way out there risks. They have to be calculated. They have to make sense, and you've got to get buy-in. But taking risks is a part of it. I think another part of it, and I'm gonna come right down Front Street because I know we have a lot of GovCon. We've got a lot of commercial space people on here. This is a really difficult time right now. Okay, let's just pause and it's difficult. Changes are happening every day. People are holding back resources. People are not hiring as frequently as they would. People are having problems finding jobs. And when I'm walking into rooms, offices, boardrooms, buildings, the first question I'm asking that CEO is, I'm looking them straight in the eyes and I'm saying, how are you? How is the business going? And I believe, honestly, that everything that we're experiencing is going to lead to positivity. It's going to lead to an amazing rebirthing process. We are going to be better after these growth challenges happen. Mm-hmm. But we need to also understand our team's strengths and our weaknesses and how we can support them as they get through these growth challenges. I'm sure there's a handful of you right now that are going through reorganizations, that are going through layoffs, that are wondering if you're going to have a job tomorrow. And me telling you that this is a growing season doesn't make you feel any better, but you know that I'm right. You know that better is around the corner. It has to be, because this is going to challenge you more than ever before. So I think that's kind of the three-part model. It's, the friction points are going to happen. The bottlenecks are going to happen. How do we prevent? How do we prepare? And then you've got your rhythm, right? How can we get into the rhythm of an operating system that works? And then finally, growth is okay. Growth is good. It just hurts.
So before you tell us a little bit more about that operating rhythm, I have a question in the chat. I have Going back to the fractional COO bit, how can you tell when someone is genuinely interested versus just fishing for free advice or a free consultation?
Yeah. Hi, Eric. How are you? This question sounds familiar. Oh my goodness. So those of you who know me, who have scheduled meetings with me, I have a 15 discovery call. I have a 30-minute uh, introduction, and then I have like an hour, and that hour is usually for strategic planning and operations types of things. And I usually reserve the 15-minute for
Mhm.
people that I'm not quite sure are going to be a next level person. I'm not quite sure if it's going to be someone that I'm going to move forward with, but I want to give them the 15 minutes to have a conversation. I am not one of those, I'm super busy. I'm one of those people that do 12 meetings a day, every 30 minutes on, and I'm trying to run out the house real quick to walk my dog so that so that I can get up
Some
and
sunlight.
stretch my legs. Yes, yes. But we have to take time out to listen to people and to find out if there's alignment. And so usually, Eric, in that 15 minutes, I can decide if it's a next level conversation and if we're going to plan for another one. That's usually how it is for me. I have so many people that are fishing for advice and who want to try to very quickly pitch whatever they're trying to pitch. And we have to realize that we don't want to burn bridges because the space community is very small. So we need to get everybody that attention. But at the same time, we need to realize when there's not alignment and when it's time to go on to the next person.
Got it.
Great question.
Yeah. So tell us a little bit more on building a cadence, building a rhythm as a way to manage friction points.
Yeah. I'm one of those people. I talked about leading with assessments, qualitative and quantitative, walking into a organization or a company and being able to see what's going on and how things are happening, and then being able to build out a solution to the problem, essentially. And that's one of the ways that I think you do it. You lead with assessment. You lead with what needs to actually happen, and then once you push that out to executive leadership and you make it transparent to the entire organization, it becomes less of this is what they want me to do, but it becomes more of this is what needs to happen based on the data. And then once they get that, Vanessa, they are all in, because the data doesn't lie. It's coming from a third party who doesn't realize or care any other way. They're just producing the data. And then you put together a system that works for them. I really lean into frameworks. I absolutely love getting in and figuring out, okay, how are we flexible enough to build departments over time as a startup? When do I need to push out an HR department? When do I need to push out an HRIS? What type of operating systems and CRMs do I need to use? Those are our jobs, operators. You guys know this. These are the things that we have to be thinking 10 steps ahead of in our strategic plan in order to make sure that we're attending to the needs of our customer. And so those are some, when I talk about rhythms and cadence, those are a big part of it. Also meetings. When are we having meetings and why are we having meetings? You're going to see a whole exercise in the ops playbook about that, mostly because it's a major problem. And I'm going to be 100% transparent with you. Okay. I hate meetings. I hate them. They're awful. Having meetings to have meetings is not productive, but having meetings that are meaningful, a 10-minute stand up for your KPI meeting, which is something that my firm has adopted. A 30-minute quick call once a week. I call it a technical call for my team, where all we're talking about is what can I do to help you get more sales? What can I do to help you move forward? What can I do to help you make your job easier? What's bothering you? What's going well? That 30-minute technical call is key. And then having a team meeting where it's a little bit more casual. You can share a little bit more about yourself, but doing that like bi-weekly. So whatever that rhythm is from a meeting perspective for your company, I think that's a big one. You've got to evaluate that. So make sure you guys check that out in the ops playbook.
Yeah. I know one thing that used to work for my team when I was still in corporate America, it was a no meeting Wednesday. when you have a marketing team and you have creatives and they need the ability to write or design or create or push out campaigns, that was a day where they had no interruptions, no meetings on the calendar, and it was just focused time, focused work. So
Yeah.
that's one cadence, or I suppose a rhythm that worked for that team. What else? Oh, yeah, I had Deep Work Wednesdays. Oh, I like that. That's better branding than what I had. I like that. Now, how do you know that the rhythms you have in place are working versus this is what we've always done?
Yeah. For me, I know that it's working when people aren't running out the back door screaming like the house is on fire. I think knowing that you've hired for the right reason and there's clarity behind the role, that there's training and development inside from your people management and HR perspective, people feel like they're being heard and things are getting done, and we're planning for growth. At the same time, we're planning for sustainability. And then lastly, I feel like you're incentivizing me for being here because you're taking care of me. You're doing the things that make me want to be a part of this team. Sometimes that's not about resources, guys. Sometimes that's not about a huge salary. Sometimes it's just about the little things that you do to make people feel like they're in the right place at the right time. And I've heard that works really, really well. And I've seen it work really well. So then you eliminate as much of the people running out the back door and saying, I'm going to go find another place to work. I don't even care what it is. I just need to go somewhere else because this is terrible. I had the chance, a couple days ago. I live in the UCF area. Go Knights, charge on. And I got to visit a company and I just fell in love. I may have asked for a job because I just love the corporate culture. And most of their sales team and their recruiters are Division I, Division II retired athletes, which you'll read in my book. I was a Division I athlete at Drake University. Go Dogs. And I was just mesmerized by his planning and what he was actually looking for were competitive people that were used to losing, that knew how to get back up again. Because in sales, you're always getting no's. So how do you become comfortable with no's, but still have the goal to get the yeses? And he had something called Flex Fridays, where you get to leave early or you don't work at all on Fridays if you accomplish your dialing goals and if you set the calls that need to get set. That's incentivizing. That's not about more money. That's about just making sure that you feel like a human being at a place you work at. And for an athletic culture, people that were football and track and everything else, that's a goal that they're going to reach for every single time. And they're going to feel self-actualized every time they accomplish that goal. So I'm totally 100% on board with you there, Vanessa. I think you have to find things that are going to help your team lean in.
Yeah, absolutely. So summarizing a little bit, we've identified those pain points, those frictions. We talked about what are some key things you could do to identify it, to fix it, right? In some of the everyday cadences, operating rhythms you can set up to keep that and stay clear, right? Stay clear of some of those friction points we discussed, like misalignment of goals, bottlenecks. Now, rhythms are in place, but growth brings pressure. It can bring discomfort in teams, tense moments, if you will. The question is, how do you leverage that in a positive way? Because it's going to happen, hopefully, right? Hopefully it does happen. You're growing.
Well, don't avoid it. I think certain personalities, when they're feeling pressed or pressured, they have a tendency to kind of just like, it'll just go away if I ignore it. A good operator should lean into it, should see the writing on the wall, and should create a plan to get through it. I think it's also important to realize that it's a time for us to pause and reflect and to lean into it. We can learn from this experience. We will learn from this experience, and how we deal with this will help the company position itself for its next level. We can't move forward if we haven't figured out this. Okay, that's really important. If we haven't figured out this problem, we can't move forward as a company. And I think those things will help somebody comprehensively.
So I have an example, maybe rolled into a question on the marketing side. You have a product launch, which is exciting, right? It's exciting, potential signal for growth, and you have
Yeah.
multiple teams that are involved. You have deliverables that you're working towards. You're coordinating across teams, your tight timelines that you're working with. You get through it, but it was big chaotic. From could a fractional COO or a CEO within an organization help with that? So if you have additional product releases, product launches, it's handled a bit more seamlessly rather than having to experience all this tense moments, discomfort, whatever it may be.
Yeah. Well, and I think that's how you and I came together, Vanessa, many, many months ago, where we talked about what it might look like to work together as fractionals. And, the world is using this word cross-functional all the time, but it's actually a thing. Cross collaboration is extremely a thing. And so in order for you to be able to help with the bottlenecks within a marketing department or within an IT department, et cetera, you have to work together on solving the problem. And a good operator, whether they're in a fractional capacity or they're a full-time COO at a firm, they need to be comfortable in meeting with those people, having those conversations, and helping with the workflow. And there's times where it feels like, I don't know, it kind of feels like I'm micromanaging. Oh, that's such a bad word. But at the same time, I'm also keeping my eye on how things are working, the inner workings, and how people are connecting to leadership in order to make sure that it's working. So there is a little bit of overseeing the management process, but a lot of cross collaboration. So getting all the players to the table, I don't know if you agree with this, Vanessa, but getting all the players to the table, especially from a leadership perspective, is very important in order to have those uncomfortable conversations that are going to lead to growth.
Yeah, there's one, I think we call it fundamental truths of marketing and sales working together. And I think this would apply really across the organization is you're one team. You're striving towards one goal, whether it's your one team within the company. You really have to believe that. So you don't go into those conversations and maybe not be proactive and say this team didn't deliver this on time. It changes, I think, the tone of the conversation if you really do feel like you are one team versus many different teams within a larger org.
Oh, good. You agreed with me.
100%. And I honestly do
Ew.
believe that operations is the unsung hero because I didn't just put that in there. I really do feel that way, particularly when you're managing a marketing team, when you are a marketing executive, you do get to see those bottlenecks firsthand, right? Because a lot of the decisions that marketing is, or a lot of the strategies that marketing is executing is based on decisions that come from the exec team.
Yes.
Right? How are we leveraging the brand? What are the go-to-market strategies that we're going to lean on? And how does marketing support that? So I completely agree. I think especially in those early days when the founders are playing multiple roles, you get to see those bottlenecks firsthand, and it's no fault of their own. I think it's a growing pain, that bit of a discomfort. And in your playbook, you're really giving us those tools to help manage that. Awesome. Can you give us a story of a time when you've had to lean into discomfort in transforming a team?
Yeah, there's quite a few stories. I think the most difficult one is what's happening right now. And I'm not going to share any names, but a part of what I do at Patton Consulting Group is coaching. And coaching is not my favorite thing on the planet. I'm a therapist. I have a master's degree in counseling. And I was a therapist for like 5 minutes because I realized that I'm way too solution focused for marriage and family therapy. But I learned some really good, some really good tidbits from being a therapist, and how to listen and how to lean in, and how to comfort and how to provide solutions. And, some of these coaching calls have been very difficult. You're talking about executive leadership from some of the bigs like NASA and some of these other big companies. I don't want to throw out too many. I might have a few on the call, but they are being thrown into a situation that, number one, they never expected. They're 25, 30 years in. Some of them have never really had other jobs. They've done so much for the organization or the company, and they're just in a position right now where they don't know what their next step is. And it's a growth season, guys. It's a growth season, and you've got to celebrate yourself through this really tough season, realizing that there's light at the end of the tunnel, and the light is going to be brighter. And I'm going to embrace it. We're not going to crawl into the fetal position in a white room with padded, walls and say my life is over. We're going to get up, and we're going to make it. And so I think that's the biggest growth challenge that has been so difficult for me to because I've gone through layoffs. Okay, plural. Okay, layoffs. They're not easy. They're very, very difficult. So these challenges just allow us to bounce back up. And I think that's how we know when we have that winner mentality, when we have that stick-to-itness, when we have perseverance. It's when we can take something really negative, Vanessa, and grow through it, and then tell the story.
And you absolutely need that resilience as a founder. Resilience, and now from this conversation, the tools to be able to say, okay, I can identify, I'm self-aware enough to know these are some of the challenges, the friction points. And okay, step 2 is, how do I get to the bottom of it, right? What are the frameworks that I could put in place? And step 3 is, to your point, we're not all going to hold hands, and walk into the sunset. We're actually going to have some, as we continue to grow, some additional areas of discomfort. And we really have to use that as a way to lean in and gain some resiliency. I love that. And that's basically when I read the Playbook, that's what I saw, right? It's that the sequential steps to really tackle it internally and to continue to flex it as the company grows.
Yeah. Discomfort never stops. I did a workbook. It's called the Grit Growth Workbook. When you log on to download the Playbook, you'll see it up there as well. And the first 3 words are change is inevitable. Mm-hmm. And for some people, they put the book down after they read that because they're like, no, it's not. I can prevent change. I don't need to do change. I can get, and the realization is that change, that transformation is what makes us stronger as human beings. And if you're someone that needs to grow, likes to grow, wants next level, you should be looking for your next growth season. If you're comfortable, then you're in the wrong place. You should be very nervous. But this is coming from someone that ran Division I track. This is coming from someone that lost so many battles on that oval, but managed a way to get back up the next week and run a really strong race. So I don't know if that helps, but I think that that's something to take home with you.
And I think luckily enough for all of us here on this call, and for the people that registered as well, you've synthesized it all very eloquently into one playbook. So I just share the link in the chat for everybody. Please go ahead and download it. It'll be a great reminder of what we talked about here today. And this has been incredibly insightful. I thoroughly enjoy all of our conversations prepping for this. Kind of sad I won't have any more with you because sometimes it feels good to hear. And I love what you do on LinkedIn when you kind of show these tidbits.
You're like the only one that watches those. You know that.
I love them. I love them. I think I told you before, it's like all I need is like that reassurance from Melissa on LinkedIn and like my Peloton instructor.
Really, I'm just preaching to myself. I'm like, listen, you're going to be okay. Chaos is not okay. You're going to be okay.
Love it. Thank you so much for being here today. This has been so awesome to get to hear your words and your wisdom and the journey that you've been on too, right? I think everybody on the call today, the event today can relate to that. Tell us, so what's next for Melissa?
Ooh, what's next? Well, I am going to brag a little bit on SpaceCom Europe. What's up? I know a few of them are watching. What an amazing, like when you talk about a fractional COO, a not very large firm, but a firm that's lean and agile, that's supporting space companies and educational entities, to be appointed head of US engagement for SpaceCom. Guys, this was a bucket list. I spoke in Scotland last year. I had an amazing experience with the team. And when the team asked me to come on board to represent the US and to mobilize delegates from the US to the UK, and yeah, of course I will. So we are having two wonderful shows, one in Scotland in December and the other in London at the Excel Center in March. And I would love for you to connect with me if you are interested in really getting more visibility to your company. If you're looking at streams of revenue, if you realize that now is the time. Scotland has a spaceport about 4 hours from where we're going to be hosting in Glasgow. And so space is everywhere. Space adjacents are a thing. So please reach out if you would like to be in attendance, if you want to be on a stage, if you're looking at pushing out your branding. I would love to talk to you.
I think I read somewhere that maybe just outside of the US, Scotland is one of the biggest manufacturers of satellites.
Hello.
I don't know if everybody knew that, but I thought I personally like Scotland and London. Yes. So no, I think that's wonderful. I think I'm going to try to make one of those events for sure. For me, I will be earlier than that. I'm going to be in Bremen for Space Tech Expo in Germany. So if anybody wants to come and say hello, that's where you'll find me, end of November. Thank you, Melissa. Just a quick housekeeping. I'm going to share the link with everybody of the replay and the link to the playbook again, if you didn't catch it here in the chat. And a huge thank you to you, not just for the conversation today, but the prep work that it takes to put one of these together and really think through the material of what will resonate, what makes sense. That work ethic has been incredible from you, from all of the speakers. I couldn't have asked for more. This Next Orbit series to bring together for space founders some real tactical tools that they could use for either funding, building, scaling has been amazing to be able to provide this level of knowledge to a community that I'm passionate about. Thank you. Thank you for being part of that.
And thank you so much, Vanessa, and everybody that was on the call today and all of you that will review the recording. Please feel free to reach out if you have any questions, if you want to have sidebars, if you want to just have a discovery call together. I'd absolutely love that. Thanks for being here.
Thanks, everyone.